back to Fiddle Up. I'm Emerald Ray, and today, this morning, this very morning, we are going to tackle Real Beatrice, and this tune is a beast and a half. If you ever need a tune to warm up your fingers in 3 minutes flat, this tune will do it. And I always say I love flat keys for that purpose. If you ever are like rushing to a gig, whatever, you need to get on stage, things have been crazy, and you need to get your fingers real warm, flat keys are the way to go because they just stretch everything out. And flat key tunes are generally harder, so you really get a workout in a short amount of time. So this is a Quebecois tune. It's known all over French Canada. It's played all over French Canada. It's, just one of those really amazing, very virtuosic tunes. And it's made its way into the Celtic world as well. Liz Carroll recorded it back in the day. Natalie McMaster recorded it many years ago. And so it's filtered out and exists in all the pockets where people like to play really hard tunes. So I wanted to make sure we covered this tune. It's very showy and bombastic, and it's got all the great stuff going on with all that G minor in the beginning, and then it switches to, to B flat and has this wonderful sort of corny B flat moment at the end. So it just hits all of the flat key virtuoso buttons for me, because there's great sort of dark gritty moments in those minor tunes, but then when you go into the major flat keys, it's like there's just something very showman-esque, but almost kind of vaudevillian, this kind of just bubbly, effervescent flavor. And so this tune has both of those things, which is why I love it so much. So we're going to start off with at the very beginning, we're starting off with this just dark, growly G behavior down here. And so for this tune, I really want you to dig into the growl on your G string. And I have a whole video on grit in the technique section. I highly recommend that you explore some of that. I also have a video on working on tone, and I would highly recommend you look at that, not only to get your baseline tone going, but to just talk about, just start thinking about the different textures of your fiddle if you haven't started thinking about that, which I'm sure in the advanced level that you have already. But I think there's something to getting into the advanced level, and there's a sort of perfectionism that happens naturally once you get to this level of, yes, everything must be very virtuosic, but also sound very pretty and beautiful. And that's sort of a holdover from classical technique that, if you're gonna get into really advanced fiddling, needs to go bye-bye. Just because we work with a lot of different textures in fiddle music. So we really want to dig into into that nastiness of the G string in this. We really want that to pop out and sound not so nice, actually. We want it to sound powerful and gutsy and in your face for this tune. So we're starting off right at the beginning. So all of that is not necessarily difficult, but it goes very, very fast once you get going with it. So let's make sure we get all those elements in. So that's just playing with that G minor scale octave there. I've got a little trill going on the B flat. And then we've got a little sneaky accidental there with the C sharp on the bottom. So continuing on, we go along with that G minor flavor all the way up the next octave. So that's all the same notes there. So we've actually got a a lot going on there. There's an E flat and a C sharp. And if you can squeeze in a shake of vibrato just to make that note pop out, go for it. So let's try those two pieces together. So we're starting on the bottom, nice and gritty and dark. Oh, I'm sorry. So try that one more time. All right, so there is an F sharp in there too that I forgot to mention. And so now we're finally up to the top. Sneaking in a little B natural there. So starting on the G on the top. So we have all the way down the B flat scale there. And then we stick in that B natural. And then sliding into the D. So that last phrase is. So we've got that same E flat and C sharp behavior going there. And you really want to make that just all the way gritty, like sandpaper. Just nasty. So from the top of the A part, here we go. So we're starting off on the bottom. All right, so that is the A part right there. And so you can add some things in there if you want to, but honestly, there's not much room. This tune, once you get going, is going to go really fast, unless you want to come up with some kind of groovy, slow version of this tune, which obviously you're welcome to do. I've never heard anyone do that, though. To me, that kind of means that, like, maybe there's been an opportunity missed, but maybe the beauty of this tune is that it's just like all the way to 100, you know? Some tunes are just like that. They just want to go fast. They're just like, you know, pedal to the metal kind of tunes. And I kind of feel like this tune is one of those. So bowing wise, as you see, I've done one slur so far. Just on that little trill thing there. And so the rest of the time I'm focusing on the accents and the syncopations in the middle, and I'm actually purposefully making my bows very staccato-y in the middle there because I'm actually trying to hang on. That actually happens. You wind up getting into the gritty textures there because there's just, with all of that string crossing, there's so much going on, you actually need to grip onto something. So if I'm kind of digging in there because I need to grab onto something to get, you know, up to the top, you know, and keep all my accuracy going. So it's one of those things that just kind of happens naturally. So, you know, you could slur that or something like that, but there's something about those articulations that are happening there that's kind of becoming sort of the what's the word I'm looking for? The aesthetical motif. I don't know. I'm sure there's some technical term you could come up with that, but you know, it's you know, I'm just kind of playing around with that sound, and you know, it's kind of hard to get out of it at that point. And again, this is all going so fast that it's just, you're just kind of hanging on for dear life. So to get the attitude going on that bottom string, you kind of have to do a little bit of a big jump with your bow, and you really want to, you know, there's some kind of you know, the first note, that up bow there being just pure sandpaper, and then you're kind of pulling out on the second G into just forte, but that first note is not nice sounding at all. So that's how we're getting all of that going here. So if you can manage to accentuate the syncopated flavor in that middle section, so da 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 da. If you can squeeze that in or try, then that will really add some bounce to that middle section there. Well, that is all I have to say about that A part. It's got a lot going on. Let's try it all the way through at a nice, easy tempo here. There we have that. Voila. So we're going to move on to the B part. So there's actually a lot of that we've already worked with. It's not it's kind of easier in a certain way. It's just playing around with that E flat, C sharp thing, you know, quite a bit. But this section is really hard on your hand. This is this is the part that I often feel when I haven't played this tune in quite some time, which I actually had to warm up this tune for like 2 days before I am shooting this now, because it's one of those tunes that if you don't have warm, it's a problem. So, and it's often the B part that I'm getting, it's feeling rusty. Like I have to, you know, get the cobwebs out of this second part, because there's so much going on with the fourth finger there. And, you know, that shape is not something you normally do. so, just having all of your fingers squished together like that. So I find that that is actually what I have to warm up, because you're just not doing that. So it took me a long time to figure that out. I was like, what is up with this B part? It's actually not that hard, but I think it's the shape of that is just so like that's not a shape in any other tune I've ever played. So so we're gonna start up on the G up here. So that's one thing that's, again, that's pretty tricky. We've got a full-on tritone happening here. And so that is, not a shape you're used to doing. So I'm going to have my finger fully down on the A here, and I'm reaching over with my fourth finger to grab that E flat. And I'm not playing the tritone as a double stop like that, but the way this tune ends up going, you wind up having to do that. It feels, it's weird to take your third finger off at that point. And it's kind of off now, but it's just because it's preparing for the next little section there. So at first you are technically doing that double stop for a second there. So it might actually be good to kind of just get used to that shape. So yeah, this is not easy stuff here. So I'm doing that E flat to C sharp thing, and then going up to a G natural with my second finger on the E string. And so that's another one where I'm hopping around with my second finger while I'm doing all that crazy stuff with the top of my hand. So it's one of those sections that I often call a climber, because it's not climbing up the fingerboard, but it feels like something that you would do where you're just climbing a tree or something like that. Like you actually have to hang on to the last finger that's doing the last thing to get to the next thing. It just feels a lot, it feels like you're climbing rather than like all your fingers are moving independently and freely. There's something about it that feels like a whole hand, a whole hand experience here. So let's try that again. So that is the whole phrase there. Don't be scared. So we're just coming down to the B flat there. And then the next phrase. And there's just what even is that? And then we have so we're kind of going to a G major for a second. It's like a whole G major 7 chord in there for some reason. So it wouldn't be considered a G major 7. That's technically what it is, but it's just kind of just kind of a passing section here. So that line is a G, B natural, D, and then F sharp. And then we're going into the next phrase, which is exactly like the first. And then we have the last phrase. Which compared to the rest of it is pretty easy. Woo! Okay, so let's try this whole B section together nice and slow. And then at the very end, we actually go into an F chord here. And so we have a little, instead of doing that big at the bottom, we go into an F chord. So we have an F on the D string and an open A. And then here we go into B flat. So this is actually nice and easy. This one feels like the easiest of the three. But besides the triplets, I think it feels a little explosive because of all those triplets. But compared to the rest of it, it's like it's kind of like sliding into home at that point. So. So we have, we're just outlining a B flat chord there. We have B flat down to the F and then D. So there's a lot of D, but it's just kind of, it's, and it sort of, it makes sense in that context because we're coming from G minor. So all of that that kind of third inversion starting on the third doesn't seem so weird there. And because we're starting the phrase on the B flat too, then that's what's accentuating that B flat flavor. And then so the next phrase is, and that is just a straight up F chord there. So we have C, F, A, C. And then we're going to straight into a B flat scale. That's it. So this whole phrase so far sounds like. So that's pretty easy. And then we have, continuing on, so that's the whole C part right there. So we'll play that at a little bit of a slower clip. And with that, that's the whole tune right there. So let's start at the beginning. And so we'll start off with a, and then the B part starts. And then we go into B flat. So let's start off on the bottom. it. So that is real Beatrice. So if you're going to take this all the way to 120 miles an hour, you want to make sure you have the tune down first. That's one thing that I feel like personally is always happening to me, where I feel like I'm trying to rush. And you really have to work on a tune like this at a reasonable speed until you really have all of the stuff. So sad but true. We all know this. It's kind of obvious to state that, but it is true. It is true. I still have to remind myself all the time that just slow and steady wins the race when it comes to tunes like this. So what is happening when you get going fast is you're going to try to be digging in more. So I was kind of talking about that a little bit during the A part section, but I'll just demonstrate a little bit with the B and C part section. So you know, all those, I'm actually not intentionally doing a staccato-y thing there. It just kind of naturally happens there because I'm trying to keep all my bows really short. So there is some magic that kind of pops out like that. Not even intentionally. It's just for practical purposes. I have to keep my bows that short to be playing all of that and stay on the strings and feel grounded. So let things like that happen. That's kind of one of those things that just bubbles up naturally. So even if you're like, I don't want to sound like classical staccato there, you know, it's okay. It's really fun. It's actually not classical staccato sound. It's just for practical purposes. That's what your bow is doing to get up there. Plus, on the higher strings, that grit is going to come out a lot more. So it's not necessarily that you're doing that on purpose. It's just that's what happens on the higher strings. So, and then so B flat, you know, is just such a nice warm key, especially on those middle strings. This is going to feel and sound a lot more relaxed. So I feel like I'm often going softer on those notes there because it would sound a little bit strange if we had that staccato sound on that part. And because I'm settled into the key at that point, it's kind of giving me it almost feels more relaxing. It's a little bit like we can settle into it and go soft, like feather those bows a little bit more. And again, this is just something that's happening naturally. This is just something I'm observing about my own playing as I'm going. And it's almost to the point where I kind of feel like, ooh, it sounds a little bit almost compared to, it doesn't sound as crisp and tight as but that's okay. It's okay to leave a little bit of fringe on the end there. And so it just sounds very pretty up there. And because there's so many triplets, it kind of gives it a nice little textural counterbalance there, because the triplets are so crisp that it's kind of nice to not be, it's kind of just it almost just doesn't work there, where in most places it does. So use your instincts there. Another thing I wanted to mention before I close off was, instead of doing all of those phrases, all of those, big pause and then a ba-ba, something I was often doing, and other people have done this as well, and that just kind of adds a little variety. It's just a little bit of a variation. And I don't always do it, but I wind up going into it in the B part because I've already done that da-da thing like a number of times, and it's starting to feel old. So it's like, I want that da-da to have its impact. So when it's starting to feel like, okay, we've heard that before, I'm just adding in I guess it's a G minor 6, with the E flat in there. So that's what's happening there. So in the B part, it would sound like this. So you get the idea. So that is what I'm doing to Real Beatrice. I hope you enjoy this tune as much as I have. You can rewind all the way to the beginning and play it fast with me at the beginning there. And I just love this tune so much. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do, and I will see you in the next video.